Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 123 of the Run in the Paint podcast. I'm Miles here with Ben Axelrod and Coach Cove, our boy Nick. Guys, how are you doing today?
Good man, we're back. Hey, if anyone told me that it was going to be these four teams in the conference finals at the beginning of the year, um, I would not have believed them.
I'm back at it, doing good. Excited to talk to more hoops with you guys. Woo, yeah.
Yes, sir. It's gonna be a fun one. Yeah, Nick, you're absolutely right. These final four teams that we got absolutely unbelievable after we've actually played out the season here. Yeah, so in this episode, we are going to preview and predict both of the conference final series. And of course, we have a big game 7 to recap. That was on Sunday afternoon. So lots to get into. But first, let's get into PERTL.
Yes,
Ben,
sir.
who should we guess for our very first PERTL player here today?
Let's see. Um, yeah, pick someone here quickly. Let's do.
Ben carrying a
I
heavy,
don't
heavy
know.
weight.
Brandon Ingram.
Brandon Ingram. All right, let's try it out.
Is this the second episode in a row where Ben's picked the Pirtle player? Did you guys have him on for a recap, right?
We had him on for a
That was a
recap.
recap. Yeah.
Good pick, Ben. We got someone in
Oh,
the Eastern
all
Conference
right. All
who's going to
right.
be a
I like it.
forward, taller than 6 foot
And it's
eight,
down to
and
two divisions too. Oh, and 27 years old. Okay, we better do good with this, guys.
Right on the age.
so he's Central and Pacific.
Lower jersey number. So a
Central
6'9 or
or
6'10 forward.
southeast.
6'9 or
It's
6'10
the
forward. So
Eastern
this is a bigger
Conference.
forward who's 27 years old.
What number is Miles Turner?
Turner is 33, and he'd
Mm,
be a
older.
forward. You know what? How old? Or no, he can't be. I was gonna say Tatum, but he's in the Atlantic Division.
27, yeah, that would fit.
But wrong division.
Let's
Let's
see.
see here. Central or Southeast Division? I feel like we could get something good on this one. Um,
27.
6'9 or 6'10 forward. Pacers.
The
Let's see. I'm
Hawks
trying
are
to think.
in the
I'm trying to
Atlantic.
think like. I'm trying to think like.
I think he may be like Mo Wagner. Maybe he might be younger than that.
Mo Wagner. He's the number 21.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
always the number checker on this podcast.
That's
jersey
right.
number two. Yeah,
Let's
it's
see.
a lower
So
jersey
I'm
number.
trying to
Yeah,
think. 27 years old. This is probably someone. I'm gonna guess around the 2016 draft class because that was Ingram's draft class. I always try to think in those terms.
Right. Yeah, I do the
Um,
same.
Atlantic is Boston, New York, Toronto, Philly, and Brooklyn, so it rules out those teams. Um,
I'm thinking someone on the Hawks or the Magic, somewhere down there in the southeastern part of the country.
Atlanta
could this
Hawks,
potentially be Miles Bridges? He wears number
Miles Bridges. That's the
0.
number 0. Let's try him out just so we can try to even down this division.
Yeah, let's try him.
Miles Bridges. Okay, we're close on the number.
And now we have the division. He's in the Central.
And dude, the age was spot on. That was actually a really good guess. All right, Central Division. So this is Pacers, Bucks, Cavs, Bulls, Pistons.
Could it be
Um,
Hallie? Hallie?
no, because he's
The
Oh, not a
four.
forward. Yeah.
yeah. Let's see. So Pacers 1 and 2. There's Obi Toppin and Andrew Nemhard. Obi Toppin isn't 27 yet, is he? Can't be all. He's not already 27.
He could be.
All right, let's go across the board. Detroit, number 2 is Cade. Number 1's well, it should be retired. No, there's no number 1.
Miles, I
Um,
just try and check out, like, I try and think about the inside of your brain, and it's like basketball, NBA players' numbers. I think, like, there's some Mario probably stored away in a file cabinet somewhere in there. But, like, other than that, I just don't know where you keep all this stuff.
heck yeah. That's right. Just got to go off the numbers. Milwaukee, no number 1. Number 2? I don't think there's a number 2 in Milwaukee. Cleveland is Max Strus and Ty Jerome. And then what other team am I forgetting? Chicago.
Bulls. Yeah, I
One, no one should be wearing one because that's Derrick Rose's jersey. Is there anyone wearing number 2? Hey, we've gone across the board.
I feel like it's Obi.
Let's try Obi Toppin. Let's
Yeah,
see.
let's do it.
Is he already that old? Oh my gosh, it is!
Wow. Yeah.
How about that? We went
Good
across
job,
the
Nick.
board and
All
got
right.
Obi Toppin in 3.
There we go. That was good.
Good job. Let us know in the comments down below how long it took you guys to get Obi Toppin in 3. Obi Toppin, who is still participating in these playoffs here. Let's get into it, man. Again,
Yes,
these
sir.
final 4 teams, it's absolutely unbelievable. So let's go back to figure out how we figured out the final team that was going to be participating in the conference finals by going back to Sunday afternoon, game 7 between the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The big storyline heading into this game was the health of Aaron Gordon for Denver, being one of their most important players throughout this playoffs. Doubtful for the game with a strained left hamstring, a grade 2 hamstring strain, actually. So he was doubtful for the game up until like 30 minutes to tip. We're all over here. We're shooting hoops before the game, and we get the notification that he's playing, that he's going to play.
And what did I
It was
say to you? What did I say to you? And right away, who did I reference from last year's playoffs?
OG Anunoby
That's
for the
right.
Knicks. That's right. That's what I thought it would be at first. Because for those that don't know, last year OG Anunoby had kind of the same thing. He had missed a few games prior in the Knicks Pacers second round series last year, but he played to start out Game 7 and just didn't look like himself. I mean, he knocked down a couple shots, but he didn't have the speed. Defensively, he didn't look good. And after one like 4 to 5 minute stint on the floor, he was done. He couldn't really give it a go. So I thought that was going to be the same case for Aaron Gordon. But Aaron Gordon, he played pretty well, but overall, it was a domination by the number 1 seed. OKC defeated Denver 125 to 93, a 32-point game 7 victory to advance to their first conference final since 2016. Ben, to start out this game, Denver was on a pretty nice roll. They had an 11-point lead in the first quarter, but then things started to turn the wrong side for them.
Yeah. So, um, I was watching that game too. Miles' house. It was cool, and yeah, Denver got off to a strong start. I was really pleased to start. But then it's like it all started in the second quarter when this was a big turning point. The Nuggets for the first minute and 30 seconds, I think, did not have Murray or Jokic in to start that second quarter, which I think was a mistake by them because Thunder just went crazy to start that second quarter, and then that momentum just continued throughout the second quarter, even when they got Murray and Jokic back in, and the Nuggets, I think, just started really struggling because um they just really struggled with taking care of the basketball, and the Thunder were able to just get all over them defensively and force turnovers, and then just get out of transition and do well in transition.
Yeah, Nick, that was definitely a big turning point was the end of the first quarter. I mean, it's so important to be able to close quarters in the playoffs. And Denver, after the great start, I think we all kind of saw how they closed out the first quarter, not on a very strong note. They were only up by 5 points heading into the second quarter after playing a great first period. And I think that's when we were like, man, with Jokic is always on the bench to start the second quarter. We'll see how quickly, they can last with him on the bench. And it wasn't long at all. It was only a minute and a half, and that really was the turning point.
I mean, yeah, coming in like you said, I think the Thunder had just about every advantage in terms of depth, home court advantage, other than experience, which is something that we'll get to in the conference finals prediction later. But the Thunder, like the Nuggets, would have had to play a dang near perfect game. And when I showed up to your house, I was like, well, if the Thunder are going to win, they have to do it in the first 3 quarters. If the Nuggets can get it to the fourth, then I think that is where then they can come out on top. But they would have had to play a perfect game pretty much to get it to that point. And when you have a 10, 11 point lead in the first quarter, and then literally 2 possessions in the final minute of the quarter, cut it from 10 to 5, just, a couple buckets, like it's big, it's costly in a game 7 on the road when you've already played a 7 game series to get there. Um, And then, like you said, Ben, once those two went out, it wasn't quite a cavalanche. They said on the broadcast that it was an avalanche. It was more like a, I don't know, a thunderstorm. But it
Yeah.
was like a 14 to or 16 to 2 run over the course of just a few minutes. And after that, Nuggets just didn't have an answer to come back.
No, I mean, I really do not understand how that happened. How are both Murray and Jokic off the floor at any point in this crucial game 7 win or go home game on the road against the best team in the NBA? And that happens. They got off to such a good start because they threw out a zone defense to start off the game, which made the Thunder extremely tentative because they have not been shooting the ball well in this series. So when they got off to a slow start, they kept passing up some pretty good looks. They passed up like 5 or 6 good looks on the first catch, and it turned into just a tougher shot that didn't go down. But once the Thunder started to force turnovers and get out in the open court, they were absolutely unstoppable. I mean, Jalen Williams had a huge second quarter, got a lot of fast break layups and dunks. And I mean, for the game, Denver had 22 turnovers, which is just a recipe for disaster against this OKC team.
Yeah, if you ask me, like, just watching the way Jokic kind of played this game, like his attitude on the court towards the game, like they were completely outmatched. I mean, not the only reason they had a 10 point in the first quarter, but the dude shot like 8 free throws in the first quarter. That's what that was like the main thing that gave them their lead. Aaron Gordon had a couple shots, and like kudos to him for going out there and giving it a shot and making an impact. But just from the time the ball was tipped, everything was like geared towards the Thunder rather having the advantage, and then also just from watching how Jokic kind of carried himself in this game, you could kind of see it in his play style because, I mean, Caruso did a fantastic. I mean, he couldn't really do much in this game, but when he was with like I mean, foul baiting was something that I saw a lot of from him, which is out of the normal. That's kind of what I'm saying. Is like he looked desperate.
Yeah, it looked a lot different, the Jokic play style. I mean, he in this game, 20 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, but he only took 9 shots, 5 for 9 from the field, 9 of 11 at the line, most of those coming in the first quarter, and 5 turnovers, which looking at the turnover numbers, again, it was 22 for Denver, and it turned into 39 OKC points. It was 39-7 in the points off turnovers category, which, I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, OKC, the 32-point differential, that actually ended up being the difference in the game right there. Your points off of turnovers. And, for OKC, Ben, you just have to give their guys credit. I mean, their stars came to play. Shea was fantastic. I mentioned Jada Ball, right? But the Alex Caruso impact off the bench on the defensive end, I mean, who knew that the game plan in game 7 would be let's throw Caruso onto Jokic, and it
That's
works to perfection.
At center on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I didn't quite expect that to work too. I was watching the game. I was like you guys, I was surprised the Thunder were doing that. But I mean, hey, I mean, I guess that was something Nuggets quite were expecting, and it was great move defensively by the Thunder. I mean, help with the Thunder making a good turning point in the game.
Yeah, so on the Denver side of things, I mean, they really didn't get a standout performance from anyone. I mean, it was a pretty rough performance all across the board by them. We mentioned Jokic. Jamal Murray just not good enough in this type of situation. He's been known to be a playoff riser in years past, but rough game 7 in this series. Michael Porter, another struggle. You got to think that the shoulder, it was really, really, hurting him a lot this series. I mean, he had a pretty bad series besides moments in like game 3 and game 6, I believe, but he only has 6 points in this game, doesn't make a three. Christian Brown was good to start the game. He was definitely their best player to start the game. He finished with 19 points, but even he was only 2 for 8 from 3. They got nothing from the bench. I mean, look, in a season where, Oklahoma City has been absolutely historic, the 68 wins, number 1 seed, one of the best defensive teams we've ever seen, this was probably their most impressive performance of the season.
I was wondering how you guys thought about that decision. Like, do you think the Thunder's coach had that sort of pre-planned, or do you think like he was kind of waiting for the right time to make that adjustment and put Caruso in to guard Jokic, or do you think like it was something that he maybe had the idea like come to him throughout the middle of the series and then just tried it and it worked, or do you think like it was something that he tried and worked, or do you think it was something that like he had tucked away?
Ben, what do you think?
I mean, who knows, really? I mean, it's hard to totally know, but if I had to take a guess, I'm guessing that was just something the Thunder would try, and that they did try that just ended up somehow working.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think that they've kind of tried that out periodically throughout the series, just throw different bodies on him. And just make it difficult. I mean, we've seen throughout the series, of course, we've seen Hartenstein on Jokic a lot, Holmgren at certain points. But there has been something for those, you know, guard smaller guys that are just physical and great defenders, like Lou Dort, like Caruso, that have had their impact throughout the series. And I think when they just turned it around, and specifically got on their roll in the end of the second quarter, that's really when they blew this game open.
Hmm.
I think, Mark Daigneault was just like, all right, let's roll with this in the second half. I'm pretty sure they started Caruso in the second half, to go with that type of look right off the bat. And it kept on working. So I think that,
Right.
it's been working periodically, but he just stuck to his guns, and it worked to perfection in this game.
Yeah, it was outstanding performance from Caruso.
Yeah, I mean, the way that he's played in these playoffs has been absolutely spectacular. I think the value from the trade from the offseason, the Caruso for Josh Giddey swap, this is where you really see the value of it in the playoffs in these crucial situations. In a game 7 where going in, anyone that was maybe picking against OKC was going to be because of their lack of experience in those situations. I mean that was Jokic's seventh game 7 of his career. I mean, it would make sense to go against that. So Caruso's experience, the championship experience, and the you know all the years of playing in big games when he was with the Lakers, it was huge for this team. He really didn't lose his confidence. He wasn't rattled at all. And OKC just an extremely impressive performance here. Definitely a little bit disappointed that Denver didn't give, a little, more fight in this one, but I think this is something that we could have kind of expected coming in, that the Thunder would have dominated, especially with Gordon being hobbled. I mean, we mentioned on the recap, previewing this game, all the things that would happen if Gordon didn't play, because we all thought that he wouldn't play. But I mean, you basically got like probably what 30 to 40% of Aaron Gordon. I mean, he gave all that he could, and
Yeah.
you see the outcome there. Talking about the Denver Nuggets heading into this off season now, a very interesting season that they had this year. Extremely up and down, across the board. Of course, Michael Malone and Calvin Booth get fired a week before the playoffs. Nikola Jokic is absolutely incredible. He has probably his best season, in the league. We'll see if he ends up winning the MVP. But second straight year that their season comes to an end with a game 7 loss in the second round. Ben, we'll start with you. What do you think the Denver Nuggets mindset should be going into the offseason?
It's gonna be an interesting offseason, I think, for Denver. Somehow recently I saw like a few rumors about like Kevin Durant possibly getting traded there, but I don't know how they could pull that off. But um, I think they should look to trade Michael Porter Jr. this offseason. I mean, gotta think they need to move on from someone like that on their team to try and like see if they can like add some more depth or something to get some more going. I mean, I don't really know totally if the Nuggets need to try to like go for a superstar like a Durant, but I really think they should focus on adding some depth and to where like maybe they could get some like better rim protection and better scoring out of that, I think. Um, be nice if they could add somebody even to somehow that could make them a better shooting team overall. I mean, I don't think they were a great 3-point shooting team. That's an area they could look to improve in as well. So those are my main thoughts right now, at least on what I think they should possibly look to do.
Nick, do you think that the Nuggets should look to move on from one of their key guys? I mean, obviously Jokic is going to stay around, but you had up and down seasons from Jamal Murray, Michael Porter. Great year from Aaron Gordon. I mean, I don't think you could have asked for much better. I don't know if you will get much better. And he's also a great fit there. What do you think Denver should look to do? Should they look to stand pat or should they look to try to get some more depth on their team?
It's strange because I kind of feel like this team is in a similar spot to our hometown Cavs. Like their decision, well, it's a bit different because their decision is whether they're gonna. Basically, I think they decide whether they want to trade Michael Porter because you're not going to trade Jamal. You just paid him. Aaron Gordon had a fantastic year. Obviously, Jokic is the best player in the world. So the guy who's on the outs is MPJ, but he didn't do anything to really like deserve that spot. Their decision is similar to the Cavs, where like you got this starting five, a good core of like 6 or 7 guys in place. Cavs are a bit set up a little bit better than this roster. But do you want to run it back or do you want to change it up? Um, that's what each of these franchises are going to decide over the offseason, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. What I think they had a rough year, similar to the Cavs. Up and down seasons, like you said, for Jamal, and Gordon was hurt a lot, but MPJ was hurt in the playoffs, and the roster just wasn't constructed very well this season. Like they were desperately grabbing Russell Westbrook at the beginning of the year on a minimum. He was supposed to be an impact guy, and he was, but like when you're in that spot, you got to know that you're in that spot. So what they have to decide is if they're gonna get themselves out of that spot by going the route of trading MPJ or going the route of trying to find some diamonds in the rough in the same fashion that like they signed KCP.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there are definitely going to be some tough decisions that have to be made. I think the Denver Cleveland comparison, it's definitely interesting. Because they are two teams that could look to make moves. I definitely do think the Cavs roster is better and more suited to compete going forward because
Yeah.
obviously they're younger. And even yesterday as we're recording this, Kobe Altman had his press conference, and I liked a lot of what he had to say about this team is still very young. They're all going to get better. I don't know if that's the case with a lot of these, Denver Nugget players. Yeah, Michael Porter Jr. is probably the guy you would look to trade out of these guys because you just paid Murray and Gordon just had probably his best season in the league. But Porter, after having a pretty good regular season, had a pretty bad playoffs. So his value is probably at his lowest right now. So is there really much better out there for Porter? I don't know if there are any moves out there that could make them better and what team would want to get Michael Porter to pay him $38 million.
Are they a second apron team? Sorry, speak
I
over you.
let me see here. I believe that they might be at this point. Let me see here.
I was just wondering how
Um,
much room they would have for free agents this offseason.
Correct. Denver, I believe, is in the second apron. No, they are not. They are 7 million away from being in the second apron. They are just outside. They are looking on looking at all the second apron teams. There's Boston, there's Phoenix, there's Cleveland that are all going to be second apron teams next year, and then Denver is right outside of that area. And their upcoming moves, the players that are up for contract, um, Dario Saric and Russell Westbrook both have player options. You expect Saric to, he's not going to turn down $5 million, but Westbrook will be interesting to see if he wants to go back to Denver if they want him back. Personally, I know Russell Westbrook is always a polarizing figure across the league, but I liked his fit in Denver this year. I thought he played pretty well besides this Thunder series. He was good in the Clipper first round, but not so much in this series. They'll get Deron Holmes back next year. He was
Right.
their first round pick last year. injured for the whole year, he'll be there to try and be what their backup 5
Yeah,
next year.
they'll be nice. They'll be big for them. So finally, some hope with that. That well, they'll finally have someone not DeAndre Jordan that's the backup center there.
Right, exactly. And then the bigger decisions that they'll have to make, money wise, are both Christian Brown and Peyton Watson are going to be up for their rookie extensions. So
Yep.
Peyton Watson, a little, in and out. We'll see what his market is, but Christian Brown, very good season as the starting shooting guard for the Denver Nuggets, one of their more consistent players throughout really the entire season. I mean, this year he jumped up to average 15 points per game, 58% from the field, 40% from three, playing, along in that Jokic system. And he, played well in the playoffs as well. So that'll be something that may go hand in hand. I mean, will they be able to afford a Christian Brown extension with Michael Porter, as well?
Should be interesting to see.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with Denver. Also, will be important to see what they decide to do with the head coaching spot. If they will have David Adelman be their for sure full-time head coach going forward, or if they'll look to the open market where there are so many good head coaches that could be good for them. I guess quickly before we move on, what are your guys' thoughts on that? Do you think that they should keep Adelman as their head coach since he, did a pretty good job, all things considered, with the circumstances?
Yeah, I think he's made a pretty good case for himself. The players seem to, respect him and buy in, and there hasn't been any bad press about him, although he hasn't really had a ton of time to, you know, do anything wrong. But just listening to some of the exit press conferences is like Nuggets are talking about next season. So let's I don't know, see if it sounds like they want to run it back.
Yeah, with David Adelman. I think that's
Yeah.
probably the right I think that's definitely the right move, even if you give him like a 1-year deal just to have a full season trial period, and then move forward with that. But either way, Denver, after a bit of a rocky season, they take a 68-win team to 7 games in the second round. And now they're headed off to Cancun to enjoy the off season. So now let's get into the 2025 Western Conference Finals, our preview and predictions. The Minnesota Timberwolves, who've been sitting around for the last week or so in you know pursuit of this series, taking on the number 1 seeded OKC Thunder, the 1 versus 6 matchup. There's the head-to-head matchups right there. Stats wise, they split the season series 2 games to 2. Bit unconventional that we end up getting this series at this point with how inconsistent Minnesota was during the year. But honestly, if you go back to the beginning of the season, this was probably a pretty popular pick for a Western Conference final. So we do end up getting it. We've got 2 of the best defensive teams in the league and teams that have picked it up on the offensive end as well. So, Ben, let's start with you. What is the first thing that stands out to you with this Minnesota OKC series?
I mean, just electric. Two hungry young superstars going at it in this game that are both really fun guards to watch. That are just going to be going right at it against each other. Shavers, Anthony Edwards. That's just going to be so fun. We'll definitely, I think, see some great hoops coming up in this series between those guys. And I also, am excited to see. I think both of these teams, have a nice rotation of big man lineups too. And I'm excited to see how these bigs go at it against each other. Who could just win those battles down low? Man, I think we'll get some great battles down low between the big guys on both of these teams. That'll be a lot of fun too.
Yeah, these are 2 teams that are kind of constructed pretty similarly when you take a look roster wise. They've got great front court depth. Their one of their lead guards is a budding superstar looking to become maybe the face of the league in this series. We may have the 2 most probable guys to become, the big faces of the league at the guard position. Heading into the offseason next year. Definitely something to watch out for is those two guys going at it. But Nick, what stands out to you with this series?
Um, for me, it's the experience. I think the Thunder win this series. I picked them in 7, but it's going to come down to how quickly they can shake off the nerves. And because, this whole Minnesota team, barring Julius Randle, was in the conference finals a year ago. Oh, Dante DiVincenzo, too. Sorry. But they're going to feel ready for that tip when the ball goes up in OKC on Tuesday night. They're going to feel like they're doing it again because they were just there last year. So that's going to be familiar. For OKC, it's going to be brand new and it's going to be pressure. And there's just no denying, no avoiding the fact that you're going to feel some nerves and there's going to be an adjustment that you have to make. And so how quickly can you make that adjustment in game 1? And then if it doesn't, if you don't make the adjustment, like how do you handle that? Like how do you handle the adversity? How do you um yeah, I'm sorry. I'm kind of talking into a black hole.
Well, no, it's true. It's a very important point. I mean, the experience is definitely something to watch in this series because Minnesota was just there last season and got beat pretty handily, even though they were close games against Dallas. Beat pretty handily. It was only a 5-game series there, technically a gentleman's sweep because they lost the first 3 games when they had a home court advantage as well. So they've been there before. They've had the failure, at that point of the series as well. And OKC, of course, doesn't really have that experience besides a second round loss last year. I think something to watch going in is something that we look at a lot going into playoff series, and that is the rest versus rust factor. Because this time it's OKC that has been in the rhythm of playing basketball, hard fought, games against Denver, in the second round. Meanwhile, Minnesota has only played in 10 games in these playoffs after 5-game wins against the Lakers and Golden State. Two teams that are very different to OKC as well. Lakers and Warriors were both small as heck. Warriors were obviously injured. And the Lakers were obviously a very shallow team as well, which none of those things are similar to this OKC team. Minnesota is going to have to definitely switch up their style of play here heading into this series. But I think game 1 is going to be super important. OKC with the home court advantage and not having as much experience, I think they definitely need to take care of business in game 1 to start off with as well. But Minnesota definitely has a lot of advantages in this series with obviously the experience, but the versatility defensively to just put on, Shea and J Dub and, all across the board.
The next victor I have coming into this series is actually Julius Randle because, like you said, the Timberwolves are now matching up with a team that's, around their size, big size, the Thunder. I think the smaller size teams with the Lakers and the Warriors helped Randall score pretty well in the series. But can he keep that up against the Thunder, who are great defensively? And I think if Randall can find a way to keep scoring pretty well, play like a star along with Anthony Edwards in this series, that could possibly lift the Timberwolves to winning the series. And I think they would have a good shot at winning the series. It's just Randall can do that throughout the series. So that's actually something I'm going to be watching throughout this one.
That's a very good point. I think Nick and I have talked about this a lot in the series preview videos about kind of the hierarchy of player rankings in an individual series. Like which team is going to have 3 through 6 or whatever.
Right.
I don't think it's even that deep. I think, you know, who is going to be the second best player for each team? Like for Minnesota, if Julius Randle is the third best player in the overall series, they're going to have a great shot to win. If Jalen Williams is the third best player in the overall series, then obviously they're going to have a great chance to win. I don't know if both of them are both going to have great series. I think that position of the second options with J Dub and Randall could be the total X factor of this series.
It's going to be fun. I mean, it's two of the best defenses in the league, um, and two of the best young rising stars going head to head. I just think that OKC is going to wear them down. I mean, one sort of the same way that I talked about Denver just needing to value like not having much margin for error. When you're going against a Thunder team, there's just not a lot of margin for error. And if one of those 8-man rotation guys goes down with like an ankle, if like Nikhil Alexander Walker bumps his head, or if Dante DiVincenzo stubs his toe, like all of a sudden you're in a much more difficult position. So I don't know how this series is going to go. This was a really hard one to pick, but I think the Thunder just wear them down and have the edge by the end of this series in Game 7 because of the margin for error for them is a little bit higher.
Yeah, let's go into our predictions right now. Here are all of them for this series, and it is split across the board. But interestingly enough, the three people on this podcast have Oklahoma City winning this series. Nick, as he mentioned, has the Thunder in 7. Ben and I have them in 6, while Joey and Jackson have the T-Wolves in 6. And I mentioned this during the pre-pod lobby. I mean, these two conference finals, they're so tough to pick. I think any, prediction I could understand besides a sweep. I'd be shocked if there was a sweep. But no, I think this series I'm going to go with OKC in 6 games. For similar reasons. I think that the depth is so important. And I think that also something to watch for is the Thunder's 3-point shooting because it hasn't been good so far throughout these playoffs. And I want to say that they're due. I think that they're going to be due for some good 3-point shooting games. But I think that's a huge X factor as well. You mentioned X factors with players. I think the X factor is going to be whoever's shooting the ball better from 3, is probably going to win this series. And if Minnesota can take care of the basketball, because OKC thrives off those turnovers, there's a reason why they've been, the Thunder have been so good in these playoffs, despite their guys not really shooting the 3 ball. Well, it's because they've been forcing a bunch of turnovers and scoring off them like they, have been doing all year long. Ben, why do you have Oklahoma City winning this series?
Um, I've been winning because you know I just think they have the even better depth, and I just think like they'll just be able to force some more turnovers, get out of transition more, continue that from what made them successful Game 7 against Denver. Um, and I just think just overall going to play the better basketball, make things pretty tough on the Timberwolves. But it was a tough series to predict. That could go either way. Timberwolves, I think, will give the Thunder trouble too. They're a great team as well, and they've been in this spot before.
Yeah, no question about it. This is definitely going to be pretty close. It's just going to be so fun to see this Anthony Edwards SGA matchup because there's not often where you see 2 players at the top of the league, at the top of their position, that probably will be going right at each other throughout this series. Pretty sure Anthony Edwards is probably going to guard Shea for good parts of this series. They'll switch back and forth. McDaniels will see some SGA. Ant will guard J Dub for certain parts of this series. Chet and Randall's going to be fun. That's going to be something to watch too. If Randall bullies Chet Holmgren a little bit with that size and the physicality, that's definitely a possibility, and that could go Minnesota's way. But just going to be
Rudy
fun to
too. Rudy could bully Chet. Rudy.
Yeah, the boards are going to be the rebounding battle is certainly going to be important. Hartenstein is huge for this series. And the Timberwolves bench guys as well. DiVincenzo has been brutal shooting in these playoffs. If he can get on a heater, that's obviously a big X factor. Naz Reid has been great. I mean, the Timberwolves bench is very good. We've talked about it a lot on this podcast about how, if you have the best top 8 rotation, then you're gonna go places, and Minnesota may have the best top 8. And they play all those guys. It's definitely tough. Keep
I
going
know.
back and forth on this
Yeah,
series, but
I
but
know.
I will go. But I'll go Oklahoma City in 6. I think that their magical season will keep on rolling over to the NBA Finals.
Mike Conley is part of like the top 8. That's where I'm like, you know,
That's definitely true because Shea could quickly get those guys into foul trouble. That's where the question of Ant and McDaniels guarding Shea could be a question, because then could Anthony Edwards get into a little bit of foul trouble with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, so good at getting to the
Will
free
we
throw line?
see Caruso playing center on Rudy Gobert?
Heck, that might be some of the strategy. I mean, we'll probably see Gobert guard Caruso at times and leave Caruso open and protect the rim if the Thunder do play that card again where they go small against the Nuggets, they're against the Timberwolves bigger lineup. We could see, one of their guys just go off from three, maybe like a Terrence Mann from, all those years ago. But definitely going to be a great series. Game one of that series is tonight, 8:30 on ESPN. Game one
Oh
of
boy.
Minnesota OKC in the
Oh yeah.
Western Conference Finals. Cannot wait for that game. But let's move on over to the Eastern Conference Finals, the series that none of us expected to be in the conference finals, but one that pretty pumped for. We've got the Pacers and the Knicks, the rivalry renewed, the 3 versus 4 matchup. Both teams similar records during the regular season. New York won the season series 2-1. New York coming off of the 6-game victory against Boston, that dominating Game 6 win. The Pacers disposing of the number 1 seeded Cavs in 5 games. So both teams coming off a very impressive second round performances here, going at it in this second round. And of course, they played in the playoffs last year in the second round. It went 7 games, went the Pacers' way. And of course, the Pacers and Knicks have history from, really every decade that the Pacers have been in the league. They've gone at it at some point in the playoffs. So Nick, let's start with you. What is the first thing that stands out to you with the Pacers versus Knicks?
The thing that stands out to me is that both these teams are playing their best basketball. Not that all these teams aren't, but these two teams are playing hot right now. Like just the Knicks coming off of a Eastern Conference semifinals win versus the two-seeded Celtics, basically a one seed, who everyone had them either getting swept or losing in five. So they have a lot of confidence. And then Indiana is also playing just with an immense amount of confidence. They have an identity. Both of these teams have an identity. And for me, it's just going to be so interesting to see who breaks first and who can get the other one to crack. And I can't wait.
No question about it. Both these teams have identities and they are playing great basketball. I mean, Indiana has been the best team in the playoffs with how they've played in the first 2 rounds. Of course, the Bucks series in the first round as well. Ben, what's the first thing that you want to talk about with this series?
Oh, I mean, it's gonna be another great series. I'm hyped for these conference finals. I think this will be a great one too. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I think Jalen Brunson can just keep just scoring really well, having high number point games, and comes up clutch. Then I mean, I think the Knicks would have a good shot, but I'm thinking Pacers. Um, I'm more so leaning towards this series because I mean, I was just so impressed with their efficiency and you know how well they're able to take care of the basketball. Just plays a team on both ends throughout these playoffs so far, and I just think they'll be able to give them the edge here against the Knicks, but I think the Knicks will give them a tough time. I mean, this is a hard one to predict too. Who knows what could happen? Both teams are really feeling it now and are confident, so it's gonna be interesting to see how this one goes.
Yeah, absolutely. For me with this series, I think that the identity piece is such a key thing with this series, specifically with the Pacers and the way the style that they play. It kind of goes against the grain of how you would normally play playoff basketball, and it hasn't really worked that much in the playoffs before. I guess besides the Pacers when they did it last year as well. The way they play so fast, efficient shooters all over the floor that never seem to miss. It's unbelievable. They're shooting like the best percentages through the first 10 games of the playoffs in like 11 years. It's absolutely unbelievable. They've been on fire. Their defense, the way they can just wear teams down, their full court press. I mean, we witnessed it as Cavs fans. I mean, they just wear teams down. I mean, I think that the stigma over the last couple of years is the fact that they have played injured teams throughout their playoff runs. But I mean, they can just wear teams down. I mean, it may not be a coincidence that they just wear teams down, and I don't think that it's a dirty way that they play at all either. They play smart basketball. They take care of the ball for the most part. They have selfless superstars at the top that lead the way. Great bench, great coaching. And I guess my biggest concern for the Knicks is if they will be able to literally last this series because of how small of a rotation that they play. I mean, they play the shortest rotation in the league. The starters play all those minutes against this Pacers team that can keep on subbing players out, that keep giving an impact. They can shoot the ball so well. New York, they might just get worn out this series. It's kind of like we saw last year. I feel like we might get the same thing again because the Pacers just do not go away from who they are.
Yeah, I do feel more confident about picking Indy than I do picking OKC. Um, for the reason that I'm really confident in their identity and like what you just laid out. Um, they move the ball so well. They have so many different weapons from behind the perimeter, and they just space the floor in a way that I don't know if the Knicks are going to be able to handle it because my big question in this is like, is Cat going to show up? Like, is Cat going to be able to not be a liability on the defensive end if he's the only big in there and Mitchell Robinson's on the bench? Like, is their lineup with him, McCall, Josh Hart, Brunson, and insert player five? Is that going to be able to hold up versus this 10-man rotation that is all press, all attack, all the time? I mean, Indiana, they assist on 68.9% of their field goals, which is insane. I mean, that is such a high percentage and is 5.5 points higher than anybody else in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. They average basically 30 assists per game to 13 turnovers. And they shoot 50% from the field and 41% from three, nearly 80% from the line. This isn't one player. This is the Pacers team through 10 playoff games against, a veteran team in the first round and a very tough defensive Cavs team that was great all season long. And this is just how great that they've played in New York. They obviously stepped up their defensive intensity in that Boston series, but Boston's shot making was not at the level that Indiana is at right now. And I think this entire playoffs, we've been wondering, all right, are the Pacers ever gonna? Are the Pacers have to be just too hot? They're gonna get cold. I feel like this is just who they are. I mean, it's not like it's crazy that all these guys are hitting a bunch of threes. Like Neesmith has been a great shooter. Turner is a very good 3-point shooter in stretches. Andrew Nemhard is the guy, the playoff riser. That's ridiculous. I mean, the 3-point numbers for this guy from the regular season to the playoffs is unbelievable. I mean, in the regular season, Andrew Nemhard, 33.5% from three. In the playoffs, in 27 games, 49% from three. He ups it 16% in the playoffs. And at the beginning of the Cleveland series, when he had a crazy game, 1 from 3, he had the highest 3-point percentage in the playoffs in a career, like amongst all players ever. Like it's absolutely incredible how they can just shoot the lights out from three and then not lose the defensive intensity, keep the fast pace. Um, I think Indiana will win this series. Let's go into the predictions. Once again, the three of us here all have the Pacers, and the two that aren't here have New York. Joey and Jackson have the Knicks in 7. Nick and Ben have the Pacers in 6. I have the Pacers in 7. I think they're going to do the same thing they did last year and win Game 7 in Madison Square Garden.
Same thing they've done 2 times this playoffs already is winning their series clinching game on the road.
Yep. So we'll see though, man, because New York is definitely they proved all of us wrong with how they played in the second round. And I think there are some reasons why they couldn't do it again. I think that if we want to talk X factors here, Cat is probably the biggest one here,
Yeah.
because of the defense, and the fact that I mean in the playoffs he's averaging 4.5 fouls per game.
Would you rather have Cat or Siakam?
I mean, in a playoff environment, I mean, probably Siakam. I think that's probably what I would go with there. But how about for Indiana? Because I know we're all picking Indiana to win this series, but it is definitely still close with how New York has been playing. Who is an X factor for the Pacers to keep on rolling the way they have?
I do
Uh,
think it's Nemhard. I mean, he's hit a lot of big shots for them over the last 2 years, and like when you have sort of a track record of doing that, all of a sudden, like the ball just starts to kind of find you a bit more in those crunch time situations, and guys are you kind of like they're finding your eyes. You kind of build yourself up as a leader a little bit by making those plays and having those performances, and I think that he can continue to do that.
And plus, on the defensive end, he's also probably going to be the guy guarding Brunson for most of the time as well. Which, if I'm not mistaken, in last year's playoffs, I think that the momentum switch for Indiana is when they switched from Nemhard to Neesmith in like game 3 or something. I think that's where that kind of turned in that series. And of course, New York getting injured as well. Ben, how about you? Who do you think is a big X factor for the Pacers in this series?
I mean, this is kind of tough. I mean, injured Nebhart. I mean, I would have to agree with Nick. He would be my biggest X factor too, because he's gonna hit the guard Brunson. Can he step up and do a good job at times of being able to guard him? And also, will he clutch up and you know score? But I also think Aaron Neesmith's a X factor too. I think if he could just be flying around on like defense, causing some turnovers, and then like getting open for threes and making some big shots, that could turn out to be big for Indy and get the Knicks in trouble. I think as well. Another good point is the Knicks play with a slower pace, and the Pacers, like we've said before, they play a fast pace. And man, I think that fast pace for the Pacers is gonna give New York trouble. That was another part of why I picked the Pacers to win in 6 games.
Yeah, now a place where New York has the advantage. I feel like we've just been talking about how the Pacers have a ton of advantages, which is true because they've been so amazing. But New York on the rebounding edge is going to have to take care of business in this series if they want a chance to win. They're going to have to continue it. With Cat Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart just being such threats on the offensive boards. Pacers are going to have to be careful about that. Because I think in the second round series against Cleveland, although they did win in, 5 games, they had a rough time on the boards against the Cavs. The Cavs size gave them problems on the inside and, in scoring in the paint as well. The Cavs had a lot of success scoring on the inside as well at certain points of that series. Where they ran into trouble was when, of course, injuries had a factor, but when Garland, Mitchell, and Ty Jerome just kind of got worn down on the perimeter for the New York Knicks. If I think Brunson and Mikal Bridges, whoever brings up the ball, Josh Hart as well, if they can withstand that a little bit better, then New York is going to be pretty good if they can get into their half court offense a little bit. If they can keep it slow, then they'll have a very good shot. And another part of that is going to be taking care of the offensive boards because that is a place where Indiana has struggled. In these playoffs, that's probably the only area where they've haven't been that great. So far, the offensive board numbers in these playoffs, Pacers only get 7 per game. The Knicks have gotten 12 per game in their series. So that's going to be a big key to watch in this series as well.
Should be entertaining though.
Absolutely. So, game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals will be on Wednesday night from New York. That's going to be 8 o'clock on TNT. I mean, that's just part of another part of the storylines that the final NBA on TNT playoff series is Pacers versus Knicks with Reggie Miller on the call as well. That's going to be great. We're going to get some Reggie versus Spike Lee moments there, during the broadcast, probably. The fact that the last time that these two teams kind of like made it this far, besides the Pacers like last year. New York, the last time they made the conference finals was in 2000 where they played the Pacers, and that was the last time that Indiana made an NBA Finals. So these two teams have their history this far, this deep into the playoffs, and it's just going to be so much fun to see the rivalry renewed here. I saw a lot of people disappointed that we didn't get a Boston Cleveland conference final, which obviously, it is disappointing as Cavs fans, across the board here. Those were the two best teams in the East all season long, but this is still going to be great. I mean, I don't agree with the point at all that this is going to be some garbage series that has no storyline. This has got plenty storylines and superstars to help lead the way.
Yeah, one thing I will say is that even though I picked Indy to win the series in 6, if New York does come away with it, it's going to be just an absolute. It's going to take an unreal performance from Jalen Brunson because I mean he's the engine of that offense, and Indiana is going to be swarming him. I mean, I don't even know if New York has other guys who can like dribble other than. I mean, Mikal can dribble, but like Josh Hart is not gonna handle the ball like a lot. So if they can get the ball out of Brunson's hands, like that'll be great. But if New York can win the series, it'll be because Brunson is just being that good.
Probably, because you are right.
Yeah,
There aren't a whole lot of
I
initiators
agree.
on that side besides. I mean, it really is Brunson and Josh Hart that really run a lot of the offense for
Josh
them.
Hart
So
cannot dribble, bro. He can't dribble.
we'll see how he does against this press. I mean, that's the thing. He does initiate a lot of their offense, so we'll see if he can still do it at this type of level against this Pacers team. But overall, these final four teams, it's just great. These four teams have not been, this deep in the playoffs in quite a long time here. Of course, Pacers and Timberwolves made it to the conference finals last year, but as far as an NBA final, this is the number on it. OKC hasn't made it since 2012. Mentioned the Pacers and the Knicks, not since 2000 and 1999, and Minnesota's never made a final. So regardless of what happens in these series, there are going to be some teams ending some long droughts, which is always fun. I mean, I had the question to you guys before the podcast. Now that we for sure are going to have a seventh straight season with a new champion, do we think that the league is at a better state now than it was maybe, back in the late 2010s when we kind of knew it was going to be Cavs Warriors in the finals, but it was, Steph versus LeBron, Durant versus LeBron making the finals and those top tier guys being in the league. Was it better then or now where we have all this parity?
Well, I would say, back then, it was great, of course. I mean, especially for me because, I was a big Cavs fan back then, too. We were awesome. But I would have to say now it's better just because it's just more competitive, more parity, more unpredictable now. And there's just, I would say, even more superstars that are just able to come up big now and stuff. And it's just a ton of fun for me as a fan seeing this. And I totally think the conference finals matches would be these matchups too. So that's just part of the fun with that too, and that's why I would give the edge to now. But both were pretty good, I would have to say.
Nick, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think they're both good. Like they're two different things. Like back then when it was Cavs Warriors, you kind of knew that you were getting the two best teams. Um, and here it's not that you're not getting the best teams. It's just that well, maybe you're not always getting the best teams because it's not it takes more than just being the best team now because the skill level of guys have like gone up. The skill level in the league is way higher and there are a lot more good teams. So the teams that can battle, if there are good teams that can battle, like sometimes they get through. So I don't know if one is better than the other. I never like guess can like take a stance. But they're just different. And having a situation where you know it's going to be the two best teams in the end is great because it's very entertaining. But having this situation where guys have to fight and like you don't know what's going to happen is also great.
Yeah, absolutely. I like both, as well. I don't think one is really better than the other. It's just great that we get all this parity and we get these types of matchups, in the conference finals, and we are going to get some crazy combination in the NBA finals that none of us were expecting, which is going to be great as well. I hope that these conference finals are as good as we are hyping them up to be, because low key in the last few years, we have gotten some stinkers in the conference finals. Like every single year, there's been like a 3-0 lead at some point in the conference final. Not since, I'm trying to go back here. We haven't had a conference finals year since 2021, if I'm not mistaken, where we didn't have a 3-0 lead in one of the series, which is crazy. I mean, it shows one of the series has always been, kind of dominant. A 3-0, 3-0 lead at some point. So hoping that both of these series are just competitive as heck, and that these teams can stay healthy. I mean, it's great that these teams have also been able to stay healthy as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need a conference finals game 7 this year.
Yeah,
Or
and
2. I'll take 2.
I'll take 2, and hopefully not that are resulting from a blown 3-0 lead like we got in 2023, because that's the last game 7 in the conference final we got was after a 3-0 lead. So hopefully they're just, I just hope these are just neck and neck and super close, because I really have no clue. Like I said, all these series could just go either way. But just super excited for it. You guys have anything else before we get on out of here?
Nope.
I don't have too much. I'm just excited to see how these conference finals plays out and that we get great series. And I'm feeling confident that this could be like the best year for conference finals in a while potentially. So should hopefully be pretty good.
Yeah, both the conference finals and hopefully the overall NBA finals should be some of the more competitive ones that we've had in multiple years. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA postseason content. We'll be on every single day now with the recaps, now that we've got conference final action every single day. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.